what we're going to be doing, we're talking about what it means to live a life where you have nothing to lose, have nothing to prove, and nothing to hide, right? If from a content creator perspective, and remember, my hope is to give general universal devos and then also ones that help content creators. From a content creator side, this is going to kill you, right? This is going to kill you. We'll go through why. But if you are creating and you have something to prove and you have something to lose and you have stuff to hide, you're going to be miserable. That's true of anywhere, right? If you are in ministry, if you are at work, if you have a relationship, if you're in marriage, if with your kids, with your family, with anybody, if you walk into that situation with something to lose, something to prove, and something to hide, you are going to be like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. You are going to feel anxious all the time. You're going to be waiting for someone to catch you or someone to take it or for someone to say something that's going to be breaking your heart, you know, and you're like, and so therefore you are always on guard. Everyone you look at, everyone you see, you don't see as someone to love, someone to serve, someone that could be a friend, someone that you can work with. What you see are people who want to take your stuff, people who are going to eventually hurt you, right? People that you need to hide stuff from. You gotta keep it down, and they're gonna find it. And so you're automatically kind of distancing yourself. You're automatically kind of on edge when they speak. You're looking for the ways that they're trying to hurt you or insult you or take something or steal something or get something out of you. And so therefore, all of everything is miserable. If you have what Christians would call like secret sin, if you have things in your life that you are doing that you think nobody else sees, that it affects no one else, the truth is, it is and it does. And no matter how much you think that you are acting normal, you are actually being steered. The example I tend to use is like pornography, right? If you are watching or reading pornography, boys or girls, you know what I mean? You are, and then you step out, you're like, well, that's not affecting me, right? Like I'm normal. I just do that, in the dark by myself, when nobody else is around, and so therefore I'll go out and I'll be my normal self. And the truth is no, because you are automatically hiding things, right? Because you feel a sense of guilt, a sense of shame, because of the way you perceive women or men or relationships or how things should go. You are altering your perception of life, which means you are going to be stepping out and you're going to be like, I have something to hide. I feel guilty, like my eyeballs are going the wrong way. Now I feel weird, and I'm going to blame women. I'm going to blame men. I'm going to blame the relationships. I'm going to blame everybody, blame society, and so now you feel like you have to hide it and you have something to prove. So in other words, like you're trying your best to make yourself, someone who looks like someone who's clean. And yet, it's a mess, man. It's a mess. I don't recommend it. So let's break those three things down. We're taking it from the anchor verse of, I beseech you, Romans 12, 1-2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service, your act of worship, right? And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. These verses, what this is, we're going to really emphasize the idea of presenting your body as a living sacrifice. What it means to see yourself as someone who has been saved, has been bought, has been purchased, has been freed from slavery and brought into another family. Someone who is adopted from the enemy adopted into a better family with a better father. Someone who was taken as a prisoner out and then given freedom in a new kingdom, someone who's an ambassador of that kingdom now, somebody who represents, somebody who's taken off the old clothes and put on the new clothes, right? Someone who has died to their old self and has raised again to the new self. Someone has killed their love for sin and replaced it with the love of Jesus, the love of others. What is that difference, right? The presenting your body as a living sacrifice, the mind-blowing part of that is when you think about religion, right? You go all the way back to whatever religion, even ancient Israel, but they all had sort of something similar going on, right? It was, you have to bring a sacrifice and then you're good to go. You in the Israel, right? You would go and you would sin, or you do something dumb, or you'd break the law, or you'd whatever, and you'd have to sacrifice either some stuff or some food or an animal. and then you'd go on your way feeling atoned, or feeling like you have been cleansed, or feeling like you've been forgiven. That's every religion, right? You walk into up to Zeus, doesn't matter. You are always continuously offering money or body or blood or animal or stuff or time, and the idea is I'm giving stuff to God, and then that way he's happy with me. The Bible says don't see it that way. Instead of you seeing it as you're trying to do this transactional relationship with God, instead of it being, okay, I'll do a bad thing, but then you have to forgive me because I've given you XYZ dollars, or I've given you time, or I've given this much money, or I've bled this much, I've punished myself, whatever it is you are instead told, listen, you are now a different person. You have been saved so that you can live. And instead of presenting your body as a sacrifice, as in like once and for all, I'll just give it all up. It is, God wants you to walk every day as a living sacrifice. The way that you live in this world is to say, I'm not my own. I was bought at a price. I have been, every day I'm just offering myself to God for whatever he wants. What's cool about that is that God isn't like a taskmaster. God isn't someone who's going to make your life miserable. He's not going to ask you to give everything up. He's not trying to make you miserable. What he's trying to do is make it so that you find abundant joy and life and peace. So you get rid of the stuff that is entangling you and the stuff that is messing you up, and then you move forward with him. That's what he's trying to do. And so as you present your body as a living sacrifice, as you transform your mind to be more like him, as you walk his path, as you make him your rabbi, your teacher, right? And you're walking behind him. Life doesn't get worse. Life gets better, right? Life gets better. Sometimes it's hard. I'm not going to say it's not hard, but it is, the feeling afterwards is better, right? The feeling afterwards is better. I guess an example would be like, say, playing a game. Maybe you've done this. Like you're playing a game against somebody and you find an exploit. You find you find a way to cheat, or you do something, or they miss something, or it's an obvious thing and they could have won but they didn't. And so you either cheat or you don't tell them, or you whatever, and then you're like, okay, I play, and now I know I should have lost, right? I know I should have lost. If they didn't look away, if they weren't distracted, if I wouldn't have taken that $100 out of the bank, if I wouldn't, like, whatever it is, they would have won. You walk away from that victory feeling worse, right? You got what you wanted. You won the game. You put in time and you put in effort and you played all the way through. But because of the result, or because of the way it went, you step out from a victory feeling worse. In fact, you feel like you have to confess. You feel like you should replay the game. You feel like you should maybe change, assuming you have a conscience and you're not a sociopath. But it changes everything. And that's what I'm getting at. The results might be difficult. The game might be harder. You might lose a few times. But after you've won fairly, you will feel so much better, because you will know that it's something that you earned. In the same way, that's what we're going to talk about. The thing about being a living sacrifice, and this is a funny quote. It's not mine. I don't know who said it, but it's like, a living sacrifice is keep trying to crawl off the altar, which is why you're trying. You need to give your life over to him. That you as a human being, you're going to continuously try to crawl off the altar. It's such a silly picture, but it is kind of true. If you're a living sacrifice, you're constantly going to be battling with the flesh and battling life and battling your own how the world tries to steer you away, and it's hard to live as a sacrifice. That's true. But if you can think of reasons why you should stay there, reasons why you should follow Jesus, reasons why you should put an end to yourself, reasons why you should walk behind him, so Psalm 23, why should I be part of that flock? Why should I be letting him guide me? Why should I be looking at his staff? Why should I be accepting his rod? Why should I be doing that? Why should he be the one telling me where to go and I follow him? Well, it's because at the end of the day, you are going to feel and experience life so much better. So let's just get into it. The 3 attitudes of a surrendered person. If you want to be transformed, if you are truly surrendered, these are 3 attitudes that completely change how you live, how you lead, how you organize your relationships, and how you create content. Number 1, you have to walk into situations, life, everything, without something to prove. Without something to prove. How many people do you know that live like they have something to prove? They're always trying to be the smartest person in the room. They're always trying to prove that they have nice stuff, more money, that they didn't come from poverty, or they didn't come from whatever they have. So they're buying clothes they can't afford, and they're buying things they can't afford. They're always talking over people. They're always, they hate it when they get interrupted, because when they get interrupted, it means that people don't get to hear their story, and so they get all upset. People who are trying to prove they're like a super Christian because they keep having all the answers. They keep spitting out all the answers, or they make themselves extra miserable, or they hurt themselves, or they do something so that they can show how humble they are, right? You try to prove how great you are over an ex, or over a previous boss, or over some other kind of relationship, or another friend, by like flaunting that new relationship, flaunting that new job. Look how great this is compared to you, right? They live trying to prove themselves. There's a level of insecurity inside of them that they don't believe they deserve relationship, or friendship, or happiness, or attention, or intelligence, and so they overcompensate, and they go, you know what, I don't feel it, but I'm going to prove to you that I am smart, or I am pretty, or I am powerful, or I am rich, or I am valuable, or I belong here, or I deserve this job, or that you shouldn't have fired me, or you shouldn't have let me down, or you shouldn't have broken up with me, or you shouldn't have yelled at me. Like, I will show you. And then everything in their life is oriented towards, I will prove to the world that this is either who I am, or this is who I wasn't. So the idea is we stop trying to project our self-worth. We find our identity in Christ. We find our identity in who God created us to be. And so we don't end up having to live for the validation of others, right? This is where the peace comes. This is where the peace comes. If you aren't consistently trying to protect and project your self-worth, but you understand your self-worth comes from who God created you to be, no matter where you are, no matter what you've done, no matter how, what situation you're in, you know who he created you to be. You know what your gift is. You know that you don't have all the gifts. You know that there are people that are smarter than you. There are people that are more powerful. You know that the world works in a way that isn't fair all the time, but you also know that God's got your back, and God's going to take care of you, and God understands who you are, and God will continue to give you things to do that honor him. Like, you're not trying to grasp, right? Philippians 2, Jesus didn't grasp at the at being God, right? He didn't grasp at all he could have done to show that he was God. He made himself a servant. He to the point of going to the cross, right? He didn't project, look who I am. He served. As a content creator, I talk about this in the book, and that is, we often tie our self-worth to the metrics, right? To the numbers. If you create with something to prove, you exhaust yourself trying to prove to others that you are a real creator, or that content creation is a real job, or that content creation is a real hobby, or that video games aren't a bad thing, or that you are, like anybody who said that that's a waste of time, you're trying to prove them wrong. You will do everything you can to try to squeeze every number out of everything, because you feel as though there are people in your life, your mom, your dad, your teacher, your past, your university professor, your wife, your husband, your children, your pastor, like people that you feel challenged by, and that you want to prove wrong by showing how successful you are. And so therefore everything goes by the numbers. The problem with content creation is we have tons of numbers. I can tell you how many viewers are on right now. I can tell you how many people were on every minute of the stream. I can tell you what word I said when everyone left, right? Like I can tell you exactly what's going on, and it can become absolutely crazy making, absolutely make you completely miserable. Because I'll speak for me, right? I struggle with this. I have to have all the numbers off, because if I get to do this full time, I am in a position that I get to do something that nobody else gets to do. Like almost nobody else. I shouldn't say nobody, but almost nobody else gets to do. I am a full-time content creator. I get to be a digital missionary. I get to speak at places. They're like I was talking to my daughter. She came home from work after like a really long shift. And, she said, yeah, I worked X amount of hours today. And she said to me, yeah, well, you worked a bunch of hours too. And I went, listen, man, on Friday, I spent 3 hours playing video games and eating candy. Like, it's not the same as going to work customer service. It is not the same. And because I'm so aware of how privileged I am, it makes me hyper aware of the people who don't think what I do matters, or don't think what I do is good, or that, I call myself a teacher and I have to prove to people I'm worthy to say something. I call myself a pastor. I have to prove to people I'm worthy to be, listened to, or to be your mentor or something. I say I wrote a book. I say that I want to help you. So I constantly feel this pressure to prove that I'm a real content creator. And so whenever the number is too low, or whenever the attention isn't high enough, or whether I don't have, the views on the videos or whatever, it's not that I go, oh, that sucks. I don't like the fact that those numbers are low. It hits me as I am not worthy to be doing this job. The people who donate to me are being ripped off. The people who are listening to me, I'm lying to. The people who bought my book, or who are reading the book, who attended the class, I lied to them. I obviously don't belong here. And so it's so easy for me to step in and kind of go, I need to prove myself. I need to prove that I belong here. And it makes me crazy. It makes me miserable when I see the numbers. It makes me miserable that I'm not doing enough. It makes me tweak and obsess over how to optimize and what's right and what's the next big thing and what tool can I use and how can I do, squeeze some more numbers out of this. And what leaves, what the cost is I start seeing people that I'm supposed to be serving as a mob who's trying to attack me. Right? I'm supposed to be serving. But in that sick brain of mine, I see them as people who are going to abandon me. I see them as people who are trying to leave, people who are talking behind my back, people who are mocking me behind my back, people who are just waiting for an excuse to tell everyone that I suck, like who promised one thing and I've blown it all up, and now they're mad at me like that. I'm projecting all that. And the thing is, I know I am, because I bumped into these people like at like a conference, or like wherever I go speak, or whatever, or online, or I'll have a meeting, or I'll have a chat with them, and they'll consistently say, wow, I appreciate what you said, or what you did, or I'm so glad. And nobody's mad at me, nobody's upset, nobody thinks I'm a hypocrite, nobody thinks I'm like, it's not out there, or at least the ones who I've talked to haven't. But I'm putting all that on them, and it screws up my life. Having something to prove, living with something to prove, makes you miserable, right? Joan says, I think I had a bit of that when I felt like I'd made it in life. I was trying to prove something the whole time. Yeah, I'm finally here. I finally arrived. Now I can relax. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work, because now you're just going to go see more enemies. People who, creators who do this, if you have something to prove, you're going to exhaust yourself trying to prove to other streamers you're a real creator. You'll flex expensive gear that you went into debt for. You'll pretend your viewership is higher than it is, right? You have something to prove. The last example is how many Christian creators I know will say, you know, like, God called me into this, and I'm here to do this, you know, this big ministry thing. And they'll speak like it was a message from on high written on the wall, that this is definitely what God told them to do. And so they'll go out and they'll be like, I started an organization. I started a, you know, I'm now the leader of this, and I want everybody to come, and what, you know, I need editors, and I'm good, you know, and all this stuff. But they haven't earned the right to do that yet, because they don't have a viewership, because they have no experience, because they whatever. So they start getting mad at people. Why aren't people helping me? Why aren't people following me? Why is my Discord dead? Why aren't they doing that? What's going on here? Why won't people join? What's wrong with my board? What's wrong with these people that have volunteered? And they all did just mad. Why? Because they're not falling in line to prove that they really were called, right? They didn't start with, how do I humbly serve? They started with, how do I get the attention? How do I get the position? How do I get the title? And then I need to prove that to people. It's very dangerous. You don't have anything to prove. God equipped you. You don't need anybody or the algorithm to tell you that you matter, or your metric. Okay, number 2, you must have nothing to lose. If you want to live a peaceful life, you want to live nice, you live happy, you got to have nothing to lose. Okay. The idea is, you don't strive for image, you don't strive for popularity. If you are this living sacrifice, you've already given your life away, right? The old phrase, like, you can't threaten a dead man, right? Like, you don't have anything to lose. Everything I have is God's. All my time is his. My energy is his. I am at his disposal. He, you know, when Jesus talks about his yoke being easy and light, right? When he wants to give abundant life, his whole point is that, like, he is pulling with you. He's giving you work that will be good and helpful to people and within your realm. And when you are using his gifts, it'll do better. But when you're outside of that and you're trying to furrow other places, it's miserable. And so therefore, if you have something to lose, in other words, you don't believe that the world has enough, or you believe that someone's trying to take it away, or you believe that if you don't obey hard enough, and you don't try hard enough, you don't mission hard enough, you don't stream hard enough, whatever it is, that it'll just disappear because God is just waiting to take it away, you're going to be miserable. Here's a few examples, right? Being scared of losing your status at work, right? You feel like, instead of being like, wow, I have an opportunity to serve more people, I've been given like a raise, or I've been given a place to work, I've been given a place that I can, you know, like, be actually pretty good at stuff. Instead, you start seeing people trying to take your position, trying to talk behind your back, trying to steal what you have, trying to usurp you. And so you live paranoid, because you feel like, I'm going to lose this position, which means I'm going to lose my job, which means I'm going to lose my house, which means I'm going to lose my family, which means I'm going to lose my comfort, which means I'm going to lose. And you just, that paranoia. And so all of a sudden, every relationship, everybody around you, you're no longer able to serve them as a good boss, or as a good worker, as a fellow team worker. You now see them as someone who's going to hurt you. And you can see that in somebody who is on a team, right? And this person who's on a team, there's going to be 3 different things that happen. One, you will be on a team and they will work great, or they'll be on a team and they'll do nothing, or they'll be on a team and they do the bare minimum, right? Obviously, that's kind of the only way it goes. So you, as a team member, you're going to come in that, if you're coming in with baggage, right? You're coming in with something to lose, then you're going to end up, they'll never measure up. You'll always wonder, why aren't they doing enough? Why aren't they trying hard enough? Why aren't they putting as many hours as me? Why aren't they doing better? Why are they doing such shoddy work? Don't they know what this could do to me? I'm going to lose the grade. I'm going to lose the reputation. I'm going to lose, you know, they are actively trying to hurt me. Or you can walk in there and you can say, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do everything. I can't trust anybody. I'm going to do everything. I have to. Because if I don't, my future is destroyed and my past is destroyed. My family's going to be mad at me. This grade, this work, this everything, if I don't get it, my life is over. And as much as extreme as that is, that's how a lot of people operate. But the truth is, if you walk into that team and you're able to say, this is what I contribute, this is what I want to do, this is my part of the job, it's clear, it's delineated, I know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to do my part. and then you do that and then let the rest go. If you have a group that doesn't do anything, your part will be presented. Yep, I did my part. Well, what happened? Well, it seems that the team didn't contribute. But I did my part, right? Or they do the bare minimum, which means your part shines. Your part looks great. Or they help, and now you're all flourishing, right? You remember a while back I was doing something, and I had a sermon series, and I was trying to do it right, do it better, and so I asked for some people to help, and I put in all the effort, and I wrote the thing, and I made a workbook, and I put the graphics together, and I printed posters, and I put them on the wall, and I was preparing for this big thing, and it was a sermon series on Hebrews. And I distinctly remember I put it up on the wall, and I was ready to go. And the guy, I can't remember what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to do something. He comes up, and I'm standing, I'm putting up the poster, and he looks at the poster, and he said, "Oh, wow. If I'd have known we were putting that much work into it, I would have tried." Right? That hurt. I'm like, man, what are you doing? And that was coming from a place for me. I was mad at him because, don't you know, I could lose my job. I could lose my credibility. People, people at this church, they may not trust me anymore if I can't, it comes from a bad place. Compromising your morals because you're worried about losing a friend group, right? You're willing to be someone else for other people because you're worried they're going to leave you. Staying silent when someone is being bullied because you don't want to lose whatever, your popularity, or you don't want to lose, you don't want to get hurt, that kind of thing. You are driven by fear, right? You're driven by fear. From a content creator perspective, you're going to live with the constant fear of losing subscribers, or losing your Discord, or losing your sponsorship, or losing collaborations, or and you end up becoming a slave to whatever you think, or whatever someone tells you is the path to success, right? And the one that bugged me, I was thinking about it this morning because I turned on shorts for a little while, and I just saw the same short over and over and over. There's this one meme right now where, I don't know, it's some dude from some movie, and he's starting to dance super crazy to electronic music, and I'm like, I don't know what that's from or whatever, but now it's everywhere. And I've watched a zillion videos on how to do content creation, and they all seem to have the similar kind of thing. Find something that's working and do it. Find something that's popular and grab it. Find the popular music and stick it on your, this is how you game the algorithm. This is how you make it so that it'll work. This is how you get more views. And that's why you end up with just rafts of trash that is non-creative, that it just uses that soundbite, or it uses that clip, and it doesn't make any sense. And it's just because they're being told they need to follow along. They need to do what everybody else says. And that sucks. That sucks. Being driven by that kind of numbers, fear of losing all that stuff, feeling fear of it's just the worst way to make content, man. If you don't have that fear, right? If you're not afraid of losing your platform, or you're not afraid of your audience leaving, if you know who you're creating for, if you know what you're creating, this is who God created you to be, this is what you're supposed to create, this is for a specific group, then people who come and go and they're not part of that group, it doesn't bother you. The change comes when you figure out that your channel isn't yours, and that your channel is meant to be an active service, or your podcast isn't yours. Your podcast is meant to be an active service, right? God has given you that platform so you can serve others in a unique way. Your videos, or your art, or your writing, or your blog, or whatever it is, as soon as you change your mind from this is mine and I'm going to lose it, and if I don't do it right, it's going to be taken away, and if I don't do it right, something bad's going to happen, to this is God's channel, and all I'm supposed to do here is serve the people that I'm supposed to serve. So this is my audience. This is the gift I bring. This is the content I create to be able to, gather them, or help them, or inspire them, or whatever. And this is where I'm trying to bring them. So therefore, when that happens, even on a small level, right, it fills your heart. You release a video, you release a podcast, or whatever, and it gets 45 views. Other people will be like, what a failure. But if you get 2 or 3 comments on there, wow, this really changed my life. I would like to talk more. What, I joined your Discord. I have some questions. You really inspired me too. Or this was a great warning. Or I'm so thankful that you made me feel better today. All of a sudden, that video doesn't matter how many views it had. You feel like $1 million because the thing that God called you to do with the gifts that God gave you on the platform God gave you helped somebody. Boom, I'm happy. However, if you don't have that, and you believe it is yours, there will never be enough. Never enough views, never enough comments, never enough anything, because there's always someone who's making it better, which means they might be taking yours. All right, last one. We must have nothing to hide. Nothing to prove, nothing to lose, nothing to hide. This is the person, if you want to live a life that is at peace, right? You want to live a life where you're not feeling miserable, where you can be yourself, where you live unafraid, where you feel like God is on your side, where you can go to church and take communion and you don't feel bad, where you can share your weaknesses and know that other people are going to, it doesn't matter how they respond because you're looking for help. Like to live that kind of life is so much better. And it comes from being transparent. You have nothing to hide. You're not playing games. You're not trying to sneak around. You're not 2 different people, one over here and one at church and one at work and one at home and one online. You're not trying to manage, who am I today? All you're trying to do is be who God created you to be. Keep yourself pure, inside, outside, in the dark, in the light. Because you know that, well, hopefully you'll know that that's how you can just have confidence, right? It's so different. And I don't know, maybe you don't know this, maybe you do. I hope you do. Walking into a situation and having the situation go completely belly up and everything's losing their mind, and you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. You did your part. You don't have anything to hide. You're not, it's not a problem. So you don't feel anxiety. You're not panicking, right? It's just, there's so much. Right, there was an example that popped into my head. Just give me a second to remember it, because it was such a, it was a moment where, well, I've talked about this a few times, where people, have accused me of stuff because they hate me as a minister. They want to get me fired as a pastor, and I've worked very hard to live above reproach, right? And so any of the accusations, they just fell off. Not because I'm so great, right? The accusations were pretty wild, right? But I worked really hard. And there was one instance, one story, my favorite sort of story. This old guy who had finally just figured out there's nothing he can pin on me, right? He tried to call me out on all kinds of stuff. He tried to spread rumors and gossip. He had meetings. He brought stuff up out of nowhere in church meetings. He would, say things during the middle of, he did everything he could. And a lot of people got riled up, and then eventually it would always come down to, well, he didn't do that. Pastor Al didn't do that, right? Right? All right, have a good one. And so we were sitting in a room, and he had a folder, and he's holding this folder. And this is his coup de grace. This is his last fight. This is his last chance. He's tried everything, and now we're sitting in a room, and there's the elder there, and he's there, and I'm here, and he says, I have printed off everything that Pastor Al has ever said, and I have researched everything. I put it all into this folder. I'm going to release it at church. I'm going to tell everybody about it. And I'm like, and I think the intention was that I was supposed to panic. Oh no, he found me out. Oh no, he discovered my secret, whatever, my skeleton in my closet. And I'm like, okay. Go ahead, right? You have an obligation to tell everybody at church. If you found a bunch of stuff about me and I'm the pastor and I'm this horrible guy, you have to go tell everybody. Spread it, share it, give it to everybody. And that made him feel just terrible because it didn't work. There was nothing in the folder, man. Like, he never showed us, but there's nothing there. And living in a way that I had nothing to hide made him look like an idiot. But if you have been doing bad stuff, if you have been compromising, if you have secret sin, if you're like secretly racist or sexist or whatever, if you're doing stuff you shouldn't do or being places you shouldn't be or whatever, then when something happens, anything, you'll feel anxious. You'll feel like you're about to get caught. You feel like maybe you did that, right? Even if from the sense of supernatural sort of superstition, where you're like, maybe because I sinned the other day, that's why my kid got sick. That's why my friend is mad at me. They didn't see it, but the universe conspired and God conspired and everything kind of happened to teach me a lesson. That's because I did that secret thing. Everything will be through the lens of, it's because people know, or someone knows, or something happened. I got caught. I don't want to get caught. And it makes you just miserable. Hiding a secret addiction is an example. Hiding the fact that your relationships are struggling. So you're pretending on Instagram, you're pretending on Facebook, you're pretending in your content, you're pretending at church, right? You've fought all the way there. You're screaming at each other. You are, you're miserable. And then everybody puts on the fake smile for the hour and a half, 2 hours they're at church. Why? Because they are afraid. They're hiding. Hiding your mental health struggles behind a fake smile, right? Like, if they knew how miserable I am, or how anxious I am, or how I cut, or how I have a desire, I have suicidal ideation, or I'm just depressed, or how I've ruined so many relationships, or how exhausted I am all the time. If they knew, they would insert negative thing here. Hate me, they'd leave, whatever. So you hide all that and pretend. And meanwhile, you're crushing this thing into your soul, hoping it doesn't explode or leak. And then it does. You're hiding your mistakes at work by blaming someone else, right? You're hiding. It's just the worst way to live, man. From a content creator perspective, the internet is absolutely full of fake people. Like, that. Like, we don't trust anybody online. Like, obviously that person doesn't look like that. That's AI, that's Photoshop, that's, whatever. We can't trust them. You can't trust the news, can't trust their claims. You can't trust nothing. People are just lying like crazy, right? I watch diet stuff or like nutrition stuff, and there's one guy, he's like, just debunks what everybody else says, right? People will walk through the grocery store and like, this is poison. Let me read you the ingredients. And he's like, okay, so that's vitamin B12. Okay, so that's an orange. Okay, like, it's just because it has a big long name, it must be bad. And these guys are spreading fear, and they're just fake. All they want to do is sell their crap to people who are suckers, who just want to believe the worst. And the internet's chock full of those people who are pretending. Creators will use filters, and they'll find just like the perfect little environment, and they will have all these perfect little moments so they seem great. But the truth is, there are a lot of people who really want the authentic relationship with someone who's real. That's one of the reasons Twitch exists, is because it's really hard to pretend for that long. It's not impossible. There are people who put on an act and are able to keep it going, but then eventually they burn out. Eventually they're found out. Eventually they feel miserable. Eventually their mental health goes bad and they have to quit for a while. Like, it's just, people can't keep that going, right? Some Christians will hide their faith because they're afraid of trolls, right? They're afraid of people finding out, or they're afraid that if I say I'm a Christian, but I also know that I have sin, they're going to find out the sin. They're going to find out a Christian. I'm going to make God look bad. So it's better that I just don't say anything. Right? Truth is that the best content, the stuff that really changes the world, is stuff that is vulnerable and authentic. And this is true because it's the one that changed your heart. What happens? What happens when you watch somebody who is fake or like just pretending or looks perfect? You either have a sense of, well, that's fake, or that's, I'm jealous of that person, or I'm whatever. And you're like, wow, that person sounds super smart. Versus somebody who has just bared their heart, is walking a similar path to yours, or has said, I've struggled with that in the past, and here's where I'm at right now. And they come, maybe they look. The example that springs to mind is content creators who won't eat on camera. I've talked to a few, and they just at one point, and it's happened a couple, 2 or 3 times, that they decided they needed to eat. Like, I'm on stream, I'm doing stream, I have to eat, right? So they're like hiding, or they're like, hold on a second, they're just like pretending, and somebody will say to them, like, I don't care, we don't care if you eat. It's fine, you're human, eat, it's fine. Or my favorite one is when someone said, said to the creator, it wasn't me, I struggle with an eating disorder, and so therefore, whenever you eat, I'm reminded to eat. Thank you for doing that. So for them, they're hiding because they don't want to look weird. They're hiding because they don't want to be seen eating on camera. They're pretending that they're the kind of superhuman who never has to eat, can always have energy, and runs without food and or sunshine, right? Like, I don't know why they're trying, but they're pretending. And yet there are people out there who are like, no, I need to see that vulnerability. I also have that. I also struggle with my, how I look, or how I feel, or eating, or whatever. Like, and you being vulnerable and you being authentic in that way, it's different. It makes me feel better, and lets me know that you're a real person, and it makes me connect to you in a better way. It doesn't mean you trauma dump on everyone all the time. There is definitely an audience for that. I've definitely seen content creators, Christian content creators, who their whole content is just feeling bad about themselves, and other people feeling bad about themselves, and everybody feeling bad, and just like mutual misery society, and that's their whole content. I'm not talking about doing that, but it's just a matter of not being fake, living a life where you're not hiding. When you are transparent, we talked about this for a while, it just builds trust. Nobody can use anything against you, and people know that you're the real you. It's so much a better way to live when you have nothing to hide, and nothing to lose, and nothing to prove. So let me ask you this as sort of a quick application. When you look at your life right now, are you tired? Not like maybe physically, maybe, but like emotionally tired, sort of existentially exhausted, right? You're tired in your relationships, and you're tired at work, and you're tired of the fight, and you're tired of getting up, and you're tired of pretending, you're tired of having to look right, you're tired of everybody being against you, and you're tired of having to constantly pull things uphill, and you're tired of following this perfect calendar, you're tired of just trying to achieve 100%, you're just tired. Is it probably because that it's not coming from a place of authentic, vulnerable things you actually want to do, because you believe that God's in it, and God's bringing you that direction, or that God's giving you that gift and skill? It is because you're trying to prove something, or you're terrified of losing something, or you're working so hard to hide something. Half your energy goes to pretending. This is why you're so tired, why you're so miserable. The scripture, right? I beseech you, therefore, brothers, like I plead with you by the mercies of God, because God is so merciful, because he is so good to us, because he sees what we've done, he knows how bad it is, and he gives us mercy anyway, right? The old definition: grace is getting something you don't deserve. Mercy is not getting the thing you do deserve. God knows what we deserve, right? And he is merciful to us anyway. So I beg you, brothers, because God is so merciful, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, right? God is merciful, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. People are panicked about what God wants. That's what he wants. Right? Old Testament, do justice, love mercy, walk humbly, not sacrifice. Over and over and over. There's so many scriptures that are like, you don't take pleasure in the blood of bulls and the blood of goats. You don't take pleasure in all my sacrifices and offerings. You take pleasure in a heart turned to you. You take pleasure in when I am humble before you, when I'm walking your way, when I'm behind you, when I act like one of your sheep. And that's what Paul is trying to say to us too. That's what the Bible says. God's merciful. He's not trying to work you to death. That's why Jesus said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Because he's contrasting it with the Pharisees, who have added the burden not only of the whole Old Testament law, but multiplied that by 10 billion to make everybody feel horrible. And Jesus, God himself, says, if you follow me and do things my way, then you'll feel lighter. You'll feel better. Why? Nothing to hide, nothing to lose, nothing to prove. Just walking with God.